Welcome to Talkin the Gridiron, your ultimate destination for all things NFL. We're here to deep dive into the heart of football, breaking down the action, the strategies, and the stories that make the NFL so electrifying. From the Sunday showdowns to Monday Night Magic, we're covering every touchdown, tackle, and timeout. So grab your game day snacks, settle into your favorite chair, and join us as we navigate the highs and lows of the gridiron, where the game is always on and the conversation never stops.
And we are live here with you, Sunday Evening Variety Sports Network, Talkin the Gridiron, Week 3. Yes, it is going to be torture for some. It might be great for another. And I know our guy here, Rev, you can't see him on the screen. He's probably dancing up on the screen right now. He's jumping for joy with his Steelers 3-0 off the season. Me and Brian have a lot to get off the chest after some tough L's to my Raiders, his Niners. So we have a lot to get into. Jimmy Pilato down there, little Rams cheerleader. How are we doing, Mr. Pilato? How are
Andy Dalton.
Damn Red Rocket.
Andy Dalton.
You shut your mouth.
But just remember, he's got a game tomorrow. He's got a game tomorrow, and they'll probably blow it to the Commanders. So
I don't have to go on a show after we lose this week.
That's true. You don't. You can wait on that one this week with it. Rev, I'm glad you could join us, man. It's been a while since last football season. How are we doing out there?
Oh, yeah, doing pretty good. I mean, at this point, offense is coming back into pieces for Pittsburgh. So, yeah, the first 2 wins, we're just kind of looking at it like defense did what they were supposed to do. We kind of hung on. But now it actually looked like we have a bit more of a coherent team. And it seems like as the weeks have gone by, we have a more clear sign as to who the QB is. Justin Fields won that locker room today.
I want to get kind of even more into them in just a little bit here. Kind of deep dive into Pittsburgh, especially with you on here with it. So let's get with it. Brian, it's going to be the second week in a row. I'm sorry, but we got to start out with it. That was the game of the day here. I mean, it was the torture game for you, but it's Rams coming back to beat the Niners. This, for me, I was listening to the last about 8 minutes on the radio coming in. Greg Papa, not a fan at all of some of these plays. He was ripping into Ronnie Bell at the end of that game, and they were ripping into your special teams. You missed the field goal. They gave up the fake play there with it. Big return there at the end of the game. I mean, Purdy even played well, which you were asking for, and they still blew it. Brian Johnson, go. How are we feeling?
not good. I mean, this is becoming a trend with Shanahan. 5 games blown with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is just unacceptable. And it's not just all him. It's the defense. Ever since Sola or DeMeco Ryans left, they don't seem like the same unit, and they just get gutted on third down, and they never make stops. And I don't know. Maybe Bosa and Warner need to have a meeting and just chew people the F out, because I don't know what else you need to do on defense at this point.
I mean, you blew the game at the end there. That was the key. You just literally blew it there at the end. Jimmy, did you see the end of that game?
I was watching the end because I was watching. I was interested. I didn't have any rooting stake in anything. I was playing a lot of college football while watching on YouTube on my laptop. Watched the Bronco game. Was watching the end of this game, and I don't know what it is. I mean, Purdy's definitely not the problem. So I can't stand here. I was hoping that I would have like another reason to be mad at you or give you shit, Brian, because he's my fantasy quarterback. But no, he played pretty well. It was just like those little things. They said it on the broadcast. You let a team that's as beat up and as banged around as the Rams are, they will figure out a way to make it uncomfortable. And if you don't execute in those clutch situations, if you can't have a kicker make a little bit of a longer field goal to give you that 3-point lead, that's overtime. In overtime, there was no way the Rams are holding up. The Rams held you off just long enough to get you to the point where 3 points was all they needed to win. We talked about it on our show this Thursday. Rev was there. We used to have the offensive strategy because when Rev and I were at Western, we weren't very good. We didn't have the fancy stadium and the new uniforms and everything like that. But we had game plans like run the ball, keep the clock moving, keep it as close as possible until the very end, and then maybe we could take a couple shots and we could put ourselves in position to win. And that's the exact game plan that Sean McVay and the Rams had today.
Rev, are you worried about the Niners?
Honestly, I'm not worried about the 49ers yet. You know, you look at the situation here. Honestly, if I was Jordan, don't hit the panic button yet. on one hand, you might want to be a little concerned, wondering, well, what's Brock Purdy without a supporting cast? But at the same time, it must be noted that Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel weren't playing today. And you have to wonder, are they winning that game? Are they winning a one-possession, 3-point game with Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey on the football field? So just ask yourself that. So, yeah, you got to be a little bit worried that they gave it up in the fourth quarter. Like, you're in position to win. And, you would think that a team with a very experienced coaching staff like San Francisco and experienced veteran core of players who a lot of these people who have played in and made deep playoff runs are still here, that you're a little disappointed that they weren't able to keep a win together. But ultimately, you have to ask yourself, do they win that game with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel playing?
Yeah.
And we didn't have Kittle. He was missing too.
He went out late. That's one of his favorite targets. I mean, Jawan Jennings stepped up for you guys. He played well. I mean, Jimmy, we got to.
Rams were missing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
We got to give the Rams a little credit too. Williams is a hell of a running back, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. They have a good coach, and outside, once you're out of the weeds of not playing your guys in the preseason, if you have a good coach and can get your guys going in a decent enough game plan, you can win a lot of these games. Every game, except for a very small handful in the NFL, comes down to one possession or fewer. Yeah. It's like 85%, 85 to 90%. You are always going to be in this game as long as you don't make the catastrophic mistakes. Purdy had an interception. Stafford wasn't 100% perfect today, but they were about equal. And the one team who was able to execute a little bit better didn't cause themselves as many penalties down the end of the stretch. Like I'm having this same conversation that we had last week about my team.
Yep.
Let the team hang there, and you did not put your foot on their throat, and you did not kill them when you had the chance, and you should have double tapped them. If the Zombieland taught you anything, you should have double tapped. This is not some shitty college team, shitty Division II team that's just going to lay down and roll over for you.
And the other thing is bench 22 and don't ever play him ever again because he's straight garbage. He's getting cooked. He was getting cooked all day.
Do we got a name for 22 or
no? Brian,
no, he's number 22. I'm not even going to call you by your name. You're so shitty.
It's like Zach Thomas. You're like Zach Thomas. You just call people by their name, by their number. You don't even refer to them as their name. I like it.
Yeah, Brian, I get no respect to get the name.
Yeah, exactly. Number 22. You suck.
You earn your name in this household, damn it.
Williams had maybe the play of the day with that little flip touchdown. That was a pretty athletic play there. That was an unreal play. Your Niners blow it. Brian, who do you guys have next week?
The New England Patriots. If we lose to them, I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm going to get shit from Adam, and it's just not going to be good.
Oh, Brian, if you lose to them, I don't even know if me and Jimmy can go hard at you anymore. You're going to be so mad at your own team that me and Jimmy don't even have to.
I might do a full 180 and become a big 49ers and Brian Stan. I'll do a full 180 if that happens because I'll feel bad. And then I'll probably be sad too because if that happens, then this is the year that the NFL is going to go topsy-turvy and the Bengals ain't going to do shit in the year. If the Earth's out of balance, there's no way the Bengals are making a playoff run. No. There's going to be something wild that goes on. I'm still nervous. I'm only glad that we're playing at Cincinnati instead of in whatever garbage dump that they play out there in DC.
Oh yeah, that FedEx Field that has been refurbished in like 20 years.
The shit pipe broke in the fourth level. The shit pipe broke, and
they had like the fan section nearly fall on Jalen Hurts like 2 years ago.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the whole stadium. I forgot about that. All right, so Rams, they get the big win. Obviously 0-3, your season feels over. They're still in it. But it's Brian, like the only good news I would say to you is you have the Seahawks 3-0, but then everybody else in the division's 1-2. So still a lot of things to play out. Tough loss, but we'll see how you guys bounce back. Should be able to do that against the Patriots next week. So
they have trash offensive line. So if you can't get pressure on Jacoby Brissett, like I don't know what to say.
That was the thing. Your team usually can count on them for defense, but this was not that game. You guys were not able to perform at a defensive level. What did you guys make of the other game of the day? Maybe not close game, but I kind of wanted to put him in there just because I'm like, okay, what are we doing with the Vikings now all of a sudden? Now they beat the Niners, who are a good team still, and then they come back and they whoop on the Texans 34-7. Darnold has 4 touchdowns. Jimmy, is this Are we going to keep saying it? Are they going to be number 2 in your power rankings next week? I mean, my goodness, how far can they climb in this? Are you buying the Vikings start here?
I honestly, because I have a little bit of a personal thing against the Vikings with my history from last year. So I was watching this game in multi-view for a little bit, but then I just switched over to the Broncos game full time.
Yeah.
Darnold is doing the things that he learned from Kyle Shanahan very well. Like he knows the offense. I do think that Clint Kubiak has a role to play in this because I think Clint Kubiak is doing a damn good job calling the game and putting him in positions where I just looked up his stat line. He is not by no means lighting the world on fire. Yeah, he finishes with 4 touchdowns on 187 yards. So he was really damn efficient on the plays that he had to make. They're getting help from everywhere else right now. And they still don't have they traded away. No, they have Hawkinson, but he's still not playing. I like what Kevin O'Connell does. Like, this is a team that if they have at least a competent quarterback. Remember what they did at quarterback last year after Kirk went down. They brought in the spaceman, Josh Dobbs, and he learned the offense in 3 days and then went out and played quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a different team when they have a guy that's there who's been through, like what Rev was saying about Fields winning the locker room for the Steelers. I think that Darnold's now won the locker room for the Vikings. Who the hell is going to stand up there and say that this guy can't get it done? He's been in the league long enough. He's been to enough places. He's seen what really bad football looks like at the NFL level. Why not? Why can't he be something?
And Rev, he's got, what's that guy's name? Oh, yeah, maybe the best receiver in football. So he's got him on his team, too.
I'm not going to argue you now because of what's happened recently, but you know my stance on that.
Okay, one of the top, right? And, like, if you have Darnold, that's got to always make it feel good that you got Jefferson. You can just lob it up to it anytime. Are you buying it, Rev?
Yeah, I got to buy it, but I think one thing that I buy even more necessarily than Sam Darnold is just what Brian Flores is doing on the defensive side of the ball. Like, the fact that he had a guy who looks as young and as poised as C.J. Stroud, he's treating fellow young quarterbacks like he's like their OG or something. And he had C.J. Stroud basically in the torture rack all day, just like not being able to get things going. And you have to give Flores his credit here. Like, after what he's done so far these first 3 games, okay, yeah, he's got to keep up for the rest of the season, but he might earn himself another head coaching opportunity just through the stuff that he's doing. Very aggressive when you compare him to most of the other NFL coaches, the way he sets up blitzes.
The way he treats quarterbacks.
Yeah, the way he treats quarterbacks. Yeah.
That's Brian Flores. Fuck you, Tua.
Yeah, that's your own quarterback. You're supposed to do that to your other quarterbacks too, Flores. But either way, like
there's a toll in the hall now.
That's funny. He's got there. Brian? Do you think that you had him? What do you think of the Texans? You think it's just a regular loss here? They'll bounce back, or does this show you anything with the Texans or the Vikings as well, Brian?
I don't know. I mean, I've been dead wrong on this team all year. I thought that Darnold was going to be crap and they were going to get a top 2 pick or something and get more weapons for J.J. McCarthy. I mean, Shanahan, why couldn't you do him like you did Trey Lance and send him over to Minnesota? Why did you have to make him look so good? I mean, what's going on, man?
I'm not too worried about Houston yet at the moment because you got to look at the other people in their division. Right now, you're just waiting to see if maybe Jacksonville could find something. Indianapolis, yeah, sure, they won their game today. The run game looked more coherent, but in any situation where you have to rely on Anthony Richardson as a serious drop-back passer, it's still not something you necessarily want to do right now.
This is why Rev is my friend.
Hey, man, you got to call it the way it is. That accuracy is too inconsistent. When it comes to Jacksonville, it's just, hey, can you pull it together? They made some good free agency moves, but still kind of just feels a little rusty at the moment. Tennessee is a feisty team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but when you have – I don't know, when you have basically reincarnated Jameis Winston out there playing quarterback, you can't rely on that either.
That's tough when you got him out there.
Why is it going to be true?
Why does it have to be true?
The mayonnaise commercials are pretty cool, though. I like the mayonnaise commercials.
They're calling him Mayo Jameis now.
Which one's worse, Vanilla Vic or Mayo Jameis? Probably Mayo Jameis.
I saw what the guy from Tennessee said about Tennessee, and he was making the crying emoji after he made that comment. So.
Oh boy, we get a little verbal here. The Vikings, they might be the early story of the first 3 weeks. I'm not saying that they've had some decent wins. When you beat the Niners and the Texans, that's going to get the attention, your attention a little bit. Now it was at home, but
what I want to say about the Vikings is I just want to say this is kind of what they've done in the past, and they kind of choke in the second half. So that's the thing we got to look out for in the second half.
You are right about that.
And another thing to look out for is also just looking at Sam Darnold. Like last time we saw him go up to a 3-0 stars against Carolina, he struggled to hold up that consistency for the rest of the season. So you have to ask, is it just like one of those things where he's going to go back to being Sam Darnold, where he has a couple of good weeks, then a couple of bad weeks, then a couple of good weeks, a couple of bad weeks, or is he going to be able to put something together?
Jordan Love is supposed to return next weekend too, and that will change things with if the Packers can win without Jordan Love and then he comes back, I still feel like he's the best quarterback in that division besides Jared Goff. And Jared Goff has had a couple bad weeks in a row. Like today was by no means perfect even though they got the win. So I still think that yes, the Vikings are likely to possibly blow this thing, but right now they're taking advantage of the chance that they have. You're playing in a division where the Bears are absolute god awful. That ain't working out again. Maybe it wasn't Fields. Oops. I still think that they're in a good spot with the division, even if they do struggle. I don't expect them to go 10-0 to start the first 10 weeks of the season.
No,
but
good God, no. I hear you, but they could win that division though, Jimmy. Like you're saying, they stay in there long enough.
It's not the greatest division in the world. I mean, the Packers were threatening to win that division last season too.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. You just mentioned the Bears struggling there along the way with it. We got a few comments in there I want to get. We got Terrell tuning in here with it. Rams, he's talking a little. Yes, Flores with it. You thought Purdy was not the problem tonight. It was Roddy Bell, Brian. We're blaming Roddy tonight. That's Roddy can take the lick, and we got to throw. That's who we're throwing under the bus for your night.
Yeah, but it definitely isn't time to hit the panic button with the Niners. You got nobody. You're gonna get people back. You're gonna get CMC, Debo, Ayuk, not Ayuk, but Kittle, and then they got that Pierce Saul guy that's going to come off
off the IR. Brandon asked he's NFC favorites. Whoa, let's hit the break there on that one.
NFC favorites, not NFC favorites. I'll put them ahead of the Niners moving forward because they have a much better record now in the power rankings. But no, they're not an NFC favorite. No, they're not even a favorite to make the conference championship game.
They are not. What do you guys think of this other game of the day I had here was the Eagles. They come back and beat the Saints. Barkley gets the long run here as I get it up on the screen. He has the big run here to kind of get the Eagles the lead here. He's been pretty good, but then last week he drops that massive the play that cost him the game basically last week. On that game he bounces back, plays well for the Eagles tonight as they get the W. They're at it. What do you make, Jimmy? It was kind of weird as we were talking about this game going into last week. Like, remember, I can remember Terrell. Oh, he wrote in Eagles by a lot, easy. That was a steal job too last week. The Falcons had on the Eagles. What did you make of this game of the day? Eagles moved to 2-1, Saints 2-1. What's your thoughts on this one?
I feel like I'm at the same place I was with the Eagles at the end of last season. I don't think that they're all that great. They can get better, but right now it's still a little bit out of whack. It's still out of sorts. And these are two games against two teams in this. It's a bad division. I don't think that the NFC South is a great division, but these are two teams that we would have expected them to handle early on. And you lose to the Falcons on a last-minute drive. You can't stop a 2-minute drill with a quarterback who showed up 3 months ago. You can't do that. Okay. And then today you have to barely skate by. Granted, I believe it was in New Orleans. So that's good. But also, it's still not great, and it still does not seem like this team is gelled anymore. Plus, you have all the injuries. But Mekhi Becton's going to be out. Lane Johnson's out with a concussion, and so is Devontae Smith. So there was a couple good plays from Barkley. There was a couple good plays from Dallas Goedert. But this is no longer a great team. This is a team that's getting pretty big plays out of certain players. Outside of those two plays, they look middle of the road at best. This is not a team that I would have much confidence in moving forward.
Rev, what do you like of that? Media. I mean, I know Johnson would love that answer up there. Everybody here that isn't usually big Philadelphia guys, but I Barkley's been off to a decent start. Like I said, I know he did drop that ball last week that cost him the game.
That was a dumbass call, by the way, because he sucks at catching the ball in the backfield. Never really fumbles, though.
He was wide open, man. He should have cut.
Saquon's a good receiver. I mean, he has dropping issues, but he's one of those with the ball in his hands guy. He's electrifying as a receiving back that you might take a couple of drops. But yeah, I will agree. Like in that situation, it's like you have a guy who has the most deadly or the most effective quarterback sneak in the game, and it's 3rd and 3. Or why not just give the ball to Saquon to run the clock down? So yeah, it's one of those things where if he caught the ball, you're not complaining about it. But yeah, I do have to admit that it wasn't the best play calling in the world. So yeah, it's more alarming that the Atlanta game was as much of a letdown as it was due to play calling and to the fact that their defensive back got shredded by Drake London and Darnell Mooney in that last series, which I'll blame more than the offense in that case. So as for this week's game, yeah, things kind of look a little rough around the edges, a little tough, but once the pieces come a little bit back together, you just gotta hope for the best when it comes to Devontae Smith, and even AJ Brown wasn't playing today, who is a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So at the very least, you just gotta be happy that the defense looked better against a Saints offense that has looked very potent ever since Kubiak took over as OC, and then just hope, cross your fingers together that the offensive line injuries aren't as bad as they are. A.J. Brown, once he comes back, Devontae Smith, once he comes back to the concussion, and just hope that at full strength, your offense is better.
Brian, what do you think what Jimmy said that he believes they might be mediocre this year? Because in the sense of they've lost some guys, they kind of don't seem to have that rhythm back. I also still feel that same way about the Saints, even though they're off to a 2-0 start. Johnson, what's your kind of thoughts of looking at this game?
I wanted to start more with Derek Carr. I think that's why you have an issue with the guy. I mean, he could have phenomenal games, but then he just doesn't show up for certain games.
Nope.
I mean, there's a Raiders game where they're on the road when the Jets were god awful. He just didn't show up, and you guys ended up losing that game. So I think it's partly that, and it's part that I don't know. I kind of agree with Jimmy that the Eagles were always on my overrated list. I don't trust them.
Barkley does seem to be a good weapon for them, but I don't know. It'll be interesting how
if they had Barkley the last time they made the Super Bowl, they probably beat the Chiefs. But this is a different team, and God, it would be so awesome to see him run power with Jason Kelce as the leader of that offensive line. When that offensive line was something to talk about every year with Peters and Johnson and Kelce, they were truly I know that guy, that offensive line coach. I was lucky enough when I was growing up in youth football, we went down to Miami for football camps, and Jeff Stoutland was the head coach or the offensive line coach at the University of Miami. So I've talked to him, had a little bit of coaching with him, but that guy is outside of Howard Mudd, and now I'm getting way deep into offensive line nerdiness. But if there's diehard football fans out there, you'll appreciate this. Jeff Stoutland is probably one of the top 5 greatest offensive line coaches, and that Eagles team, if they had Saquon 2 years ago, they're dangerous. This year, Saquon will do very well. I think Saquon will have a better season than he's had in the pros. Probably win more games. Not gonna end in where he wants. Congratulations, you've made your way to the Penn State of the NFL.
So as much as they had mediocre stretches here and there, you also have to ask yourself, who in the NFC do you currently trust more? I mean, the offensive line is not legendary like how it was with the people you previously mentioned, but I still argue you have 3 people, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, and Lane Johnson, 3 guys who I think are Pro Bowl level players. And then also, who do you trust more in the NFC? The Buccaneers, who just sleptwalked today and lost to the Broncos? Is that who you trust more? Who do you trust more? The Saints, who just laid a nag offensively today? Who do you trust more? The Detroit Lions, who, they might be the only team in the NFC who I think has a better offensive line than the Eagles, but struggled. Jared Goff has kind of got off to a bit of a shakier, finished things strong today, but was a little shakier. Who, in the NFC, can you truly say you trust more? Maybe you think San Francisco when they come back.
Vikings.
But,
That's the Viking. Maybe that's what I hear you though. There really isn't a whole lot of times. Oh, Brian, hold on. Brian, this is breaking news for you. Hold on, we got a comment, and we need to make sure. How was the printer today? The Niners lost. Did the printer survive? Did it make it through?
I didn't throw a box with an actual printer in it. It was an empty box.
All right, good. We want to make sure we're putting holes in there.
I actually busted my ring light. That wasn't for show. That's totally unusable now.
Go ahead, Brian. Finish your thought there.
I'm just making the case that I think what's hurting the Niners at the beginning of the season is that all the holdouts and I don't know. Yeah,
he's still a little rough right now. He's getting into the kicking thing. Yeah.
No, I think you're totally right about that. That's a huge reason why with it. We'll get Nico on here too. Brian, before I get up? What's our Sunday night update here, Brian? The Chiefs get in the end zone. I saw they're at the goal line there.
Yeah, they're in the red zone right now.
Matthew Judon looks a little shaken up right now.
And who got hurt?
Matthew Judon, he looks a little shaken up on the sideline. I don't know if I'm a play or two behind y'all, but he looked a little shaken up after.
The Chiefs just got a field goal, so they took the lead 16-14.
Yeah, they're lining up for the field goal on my screen. So yeah, I'm a little behind. But Judon,
go Falcons in this case, right, Nico? We need anytime we can get a Chiefs loss, we accept it at any moment in the world. That's why the Bengals let us down last week, right? We talked, but you guys talked about the podcast. We had to go there with it, but we had that with it.
But I would think even Rev's the Commanders fan, right, Rev?
No, he's a Steelers fan.
Tomorrow, I'm
but I mean, you want the Bengals to lose because you want to win the division. So.
Ultimately, even if they win, everyone's going to be tied for second place. But yeah, you can always. Hey, I'm rooting for anyone against the AFC North at the moment.
Nico, good to see you, man. It's been a while. How are we doing out there?
Doing well. I haven't started the countdown to basketball and hockey season yet. So it's
congrats on a win today.
So I know it's a bittersweet win because everyone knows my goal this season. So I'll take it. I'll take it. It's not bad. I'll take it.
Travis Hunter. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. We have that one there.
Maybe.
They're going to start holding the defense accountable. The Niners' defense has been pathetic.
I mean, the worst teams in the league all also won today. So Panthers won, Giants won. I mean, the Commanders are going to win tomorrow. I mean, we'll be just fine.
What the fuck, Nico? Do we got problems now? Because I just listened back to our episode from this weekend, and I had an issue with it.
You're shooting my dreams down is all I'm going to say, so I'll come back.
I thought I was going to have to drive up to your apartment. We were going to have to duke this out on Thursday. Maybe we'll have to do that Sunday night main event, something like that. I thought that I was bringing you on to talk about your team, not talk shit about my team. I already got
talking shit about me. The start. I come in, nice call. Don't talk about how me and Rev are the only two on the show, and me the only one showing my face that actually won today. I mean, like it's not a big deal, but
you won the game. You won the game. You're probably not going to get Travis Hunter now. That's all.
They're the same record as the worst teams in the league. It's only one win.
Let's get to Rev's team, though. Let's get to it. Nico, what do you think of the Steelers 3-0? I always say they're the biggest, pain in the world. There's no other team that makes you stress more and does more with nothing. It feels like Fields today. They get Justin Fields. They have Wilson. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Their defense is 10-6-10 to start the year. They go up. They beat the Chargers today. They're 3-0. Nico, before we get to Rev, what's your thoughts on the Steelers? They are moving to 3-0, beating the Harbaugh Chargers.
The Steelers are the most consistent team in the NFL every single year, and there's no one that will argue against that. They consistently, doesn't matter who they have under center, doesn't matter who they have offensive weapon-wise, defensive personnel-wise, they'll consistently be above 500 football team and be in the race to win their division. That's just what they do, plain and simple. And has Justin Fields wowed everybody? No, he has not. Has this defense been the best defense in football? Absolutely. This defense is making life hell on Herbert, as we all saw today. Last week against Knicks, obviously week 1 as well against Kirk Cousins. They consistently make life living hell for the opposing opposition on offense. And if Fields gets more and more comfortable with the weapons he has, this team could, like I said, they're in the driver's seat. The rest of the division has been falling flat on their face. If the Bengals are able to win tomorrow, they'll still have a 1-game lead. right? It's a weak division. You saw how badly the Browns looked today. Obviously, the Ravens finally got a big win in Dallas. Bengals play tomorrow. They're in the driver's seat, and there's no looking back. And like I said, it'd be an absolute idiotic decision to take the reins off of Fields at this point, because I don't care if you brought in Wilson to be the guy. Justin Fields is 3-0, and frankly, he has not done anything to lose the job. He's done everything to win the job. So he's done a hell of a job, and obviously this defense is one of the most intimidating defenses in the league. So, look, the Steelers are going to beat bad teams, and they're going to play good teams good. Plain and simple. That's just what they do.
And they injure quarterbacks, apparently. Herbert, they does that.
Herbert was shaking up
played.
Not my fantasy team.
I really don't think that he should have been listed as active for this game. This is a game where you tell him, hey, that ankle's really bad. And we got a rookie right tackle going up against TJ Watt today. Let's have you sit out and rest that ankle.
Destroyed today too. He just got murdered.
It's bad. It's bad. Yeah. And TJ Watt's the truth. I will. I said last week, and I have to probably watch them side by side, because it's harder to remember what JJ Watt was when he was at Houston. I think TJ might be better than his brother. TJ's obviously got a better chance to win a championship than his brother ever did, because I think Pittsburgh, as much as I can't stand them, the reason that I can't stand them is because they are an organization that I wish my team would model themselves after and be as consistent and just always like, hey, instead of going for the flashy thing, let's do the right thing. Because think about this. This is what the Bears could have done last year. 2 years ago with Justin Fields. Have a really good defense, run the ball. Don't let Justin Fields have to do everything on his own, and you can win games like that. But they can't do it. Pittsburgh can. That's an organization that will always be a tough out, and all I hope right now is that we don't end up with another streak against them, because there was a streak for a time where we wouldn't beat them in Pittsburgh or not beat them in general, period. I don't know. It hasn't been good. I'm not saying that I'm comfortable with it. I am saying that I think my team can play better than what the Steelers have shown so far this season. But when they play the Steelers, I don't think that team's going to show up, or maybe I get surprised. But it's tough.
Let's go to Rev last year for a second, because he'll know a hell of a lot on it. Brian, what's your thoughts quickly on this game here?
Yeah, the Steelers look very legit. I mean, their defense is unreal, and they seem to be getting more out of Fields than the Bears could. And man, that trade is looking like a real steal right now. I mean, you got nothing for him. The Bears.
They got nothing for me. They got Caleb Williams. That's who they got. Oh, well, hold on. We'll get to that later. We'll get to Caleb. Rev, go to work. 3-0. How are we feeling now? Come on. How are we doing out there?
Well, this is a best case scenario. Now, questions are definitely going to remain, like, in the future. Like, are our shortcomings going to come back and bite us in the ass? Because there are obvious shortcomings here. Nothing I'm going to say on the defensive side of the ball, because this has been great. I believe we've only given up 2 touchdowns in the first 3 games. So defensively, we're going tit for tat with anyone in the
What do you complain about there? Nothing. You can't complain about anything. Well,
I guess. And he gets to play the Colts next week.
From the defensive and the special team side of the ball, Chris Boswell is playing at a Pro Bowl level right now. I think he missed his first field goal today this season.
The fucking kicker.
Hey, they have more. Hey, kickers score more points than everyone on their team every season. So I will value a good kicker every time. So the thing
that's a cheap shot at me.
Yeah, that's a cheap shot at Jake Moody. I get it. That is a cheap shot. Go ahead, Rev. What you got?
Yeah, now from the offensive side of the ball, still with a question remain, because I'm confident that Justin Fields is our quarterback, but you still have to look at the fact that going forward, our wide receiver 2 is Van Jefferson still. And like, that's still not really doing too much for us. And then the bigger issue, not only with the wide receiver 2 thing, is just we've had some key penalties, which even in the Broncos game, we could have went up bigger. We had George Pickens could have had 100 receiving yards in that game, but it got called back due to a holding penalty. I believe we had like 9 penalties in that game. We had a couple of situations where we could have been put in easier positions to score points, but penalties shot us in the foot again. And we're moving the ball more efficiently with Fields and Pickett last year, but just that we've had penalties that kind of offset that so far, to the point where it's not showing up as much on the scoreboard. So defense, special teams look good, but is our receiving game going to be a little bit more potent at all? Is Jalen Warren going to start getting touches? He had 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year, and now Cordero Patterson's out touching him. And then, Van Jefferson.
Do you feel really good about Fields, though? Like, are you like, this is our guy, I'm in with him, I like it? Or are you just like, it's defense and Fields sucks? Like, where are you at?
I am in with Fields, considering the circumstances. I mean, he might have had a better receiving core last year in Chicago, and he looks more efficient now with even less.
A real team. A real – right, Nico? Me and you can adjust. And Jimmy, you as a franchise. How nice is it when you can go to a nice franchise?
I got a pretty good franchise on my PlayStation 5 going right now. So
yeah, I dominated that. But the Raiders always wanted that. They always won for me in the Super Bowl. They were there. Your Steelers 3-0. The Chargers, they get back a little life check. If they don't have Herbert, Harbaugh can wear those little khakis all he wants. They're in trouble. That team does not. That gives the Broncos and Raiders a chance at second place.
My statement from last week does not stand if Justin Herbert doesn't play. The Chargers will charger if Justin Herbert is not the quarterback because Taylor Heineke is the backup.
Yeah, we don't know.
And frankly, if this offensive line doesn't figure it out quickly, Herbert already being injured this early on. Jimmy, you've learned it the hard way too. The 49ers learned the hard way too with the early injuries. Those don't heal in 17 weeks. Those don't heal. You just get a little bit better. So if you are not healed and this offensive line continues to play poorly, Herbert is going to be playing on his back. And also, let's not forget, they don't have weapons to help him out. Like Dobbins had a great first 3 weeks of the season. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that is consistently going to be able to work out for him the rest of the season. And if Quentin Johnson is he's obviously had a much better year under Harbaugh.
3 touchdowns on the year now, but yeah,
he's played much better. But I'm still not trusting him very highly. And there's no one really else I can consistently go to if I'm Herbert. So it's it could be a tough season if Herbert cannot stand on his 2 feet the whole season.
I know they drafted an offensive lineman. I always thought maybe when it came draft, when we did that draft day thing, Jimmy, I was like, oh man, that'd be kind of nice if the Chargers, like if they in a world they could trade up and have took Marvin Harrison. That would have been
or drafted Malik Neighbors.
Or Neighbors, Neighbors was there as well. You're right. And he had
Joe. I think that Joe Romadunze would have been a nice pick for them too. I think that Joe Alt will be fine, but they drafted Rashawn Slater the year before. Like normally you don't go back-to-back first-round offensive tackles. This is not 2006 or whatever it was, 2003.
They're trying to build the Packer model of Aaron Rodgers can just create weapons and hopefully have a good offensive line where he keeps them up. And right now, the offensive line can't even keep them up.
I was going to say, Aaron Rodgers, well, they got to start giving Justin Herbert those same Percocets they would give Aaron Rodgers in the locker room. Some of those post-game press conferences have come back, and he's just like, where were you hurt?
Percocet pudding? Is that what
I was hurting in my knee. I was hurting in my knee. Like, I forgot. I haven't felt it in 2 hours. I have a knee down here. That's going to hurt tomorrow.
Yeah, just tell Herbert to check out the Joe Rogan podcast or see whatever Patrick Mahomes took in the Super Bowl before he played for the Dolphins.
That's a championship game because there's no way he should have been able to do that. Yeah.
No. Brian, Cowboys lose again. The Ravens, they bounce back. They finally get their first win. What do you think of these two teams? Are you more impressed with the Ravens win, or kind of like, the Cowboys are just in a whole different world? I mean, they're yelling at each other on this. They kind of remind me of my rec league team today in basketball. You know, we get mad at, come on, it's like what's going on out here? Well, like, they're like chewing each other out. Where you want to go, Ravens or Cowboys with this one?
I'm gonna go more of a Cowboys rip. I mean, I think you jumped the gun on the Dak Prescott signing, and this is what you got now because you gave him a bunch of money. And CD Lamb is frustrated with the guy at this point. I mean, I don't know. Like I would have won the year. And I would have said, Dak, play the year out. You know, why did you just give him a contract before the year started? I mean, that's just stupid.
Johnson, well said there. Nico, what do you think of this one?
Well, I mean, look, I'm always been a big Derrick Henry guy, and I just think adding the
let's get him on the screen as you're talking here.
The levels of him not be, or look, it's an entirely different type of football you have to guard when you're trying to keep up with the shiftiness of Lamar Jackson out of the option, or 250-pound Derrick Henry running full speed downhill. Like I don't care how many touches he's had in his career. I don't care how old he gets. That is one scary motherfucker you do not want to see downhill. You do not want to see downhill. So those business decisions that the Cowboys defense made on that play you're showing, I don't blame them. Don't blame them one bit. But you're probably going to be without a job. Look, this Cowboys defense is not.
I know the safety on this play left a lot to be desired on that tackle.
It was some business decisions.
The safety's going to look up to Jerry Jones and say, "You tackle him. You get in that hole. I'm not getting there. I'm not going in that hole."
They tried hard enough to make sure that it looked like in film that they were making the play, but in reality, they were never going to make that play. Look, I saw a lot of good things out of this offense, obviously from Baltimore, but I saw a lot of bad things out of this offense from Dallas that is so glaring, obviously bad. And I think this is a tale of two teams with two entirely different aspirations. Cowboys are just trying to win their division, and the Ravens obviously had bigger aspirations going to the AFC Championship last year. So it's a two teams entirely different war paths in two different places right now. And I think the Cowboys are trying to figure out their identity, because running the ball with Rico Dowdle and 30-year-old Ezekiel Elliott is not really going to be sufficient if you're trying to get your passing game going and get CD and get Ferguson some more touches. So I've been out on the Cowboys once I saw the offseason subtractions. I think their defense is taking a step back. The offenses are finally getting a little more film on Mike Parsons, a little more film on their DBs, and realizing where you can beat them. And I just, like I said, this game was more of a anecdote of how much better the Ravens are right now than the Cowboys are, in my opinion.
What do you make of that, Rev?
I feel like ultimately some of these warts are starting to show in. You would think Dallas had this championship window in which they have for the last couple of years, falling short in the playoffs. But ultimately, some of these warts are really starting to show, especially when you look at a few spots, a running back position starting off. You would hope that Dak Prescott wouldn't have to throw the ball 50 times in the game where you're going up against another run-heavy team in Baltimore. You would just hope that they wouldn't have to resort to that much. On the defensive side of the ball, you've kind of hinted at it too. Derrick Henry had a rough first 2 weeks of the season. And, of course, his bounce-back game would be against Dallas, especially if you saw last week what New Orleans did to that interior offensive line. I mean, the Cowboys drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round of last year's draft, and you got to be concerned that they're signing Linval Joseph, 40-year-old Linval Joseph, out of free agency because they don't trust Mozzie Smith to get it done. He's been in the league. It's the second season. He's already looking like a bust, and the interior just gets moved around. Baltimore took their lunch money out there. There's just nothing you can do. Those defensive tackles get moved around. I like Odigizua, also the 3 technique. He's more of a pass rush guy and more of a pass rushing 3. So at times you have to put up the fact that he might knife in and make some plays in the running game, but other situations might get moved around. But the issue is the Cowboys have not had a quality nose tackle in years. They drafted Mozzie to be that nose tackle, and it's not working. They picked up Eric Kendricks, but he's a little bit on the older side, not as fast as he used to be. So you got to be worried about the linebackers and those interior 2 offensive or defensive line when it came to stopping the run. So this might be signs that their championship window is starting to narrow out.
I think you said that well. I like that. Fair. Go ahead, Brian.
The issue I have with Dak going back and just hucking it is he becomes a turnover machine, and I just feel like you have to have a decent run game with Dak, or if he has to go back and huck it, it's going to be bad news.
How dare you say that about Ezekiel Elliott? How dare you? I mean, he is back with it. He's doing well with it. Jimmy, your thoughts on this game?
The Ravens almost blew a 21-6 lead.
That is true. We do.
That's what I come away with this. Yeah, good. They figured out a way to win it, and they held off the Cowboys at the end. But look at that. Look at the scoring summary, and you see where the Ravens got out to a massive lead. They let their foot off the gas, and they were a team, unlike the 49ers, that when they let their foot off the gas, they didn't let the team come all the way back and hang around. They weren't hanging around. If this game was closer a little bit, if Dallas didn't have as many turnovers in the first half, obviously ifs and if it's ifs and buts, we're candies and nuts. We would all live over the rainbow or whatever. But I still can't get over the fact that this Ravens team, as good as they're supposed to be, you almost let the Dallas Cowboys come back from 21-6 down.
It's going to be curious how the Ravens respond here the next, I'd say 4 weeks. I'm curious to see what
didn't
they're
look happy about the win either. When John Harbaugh was on the sideline after the game, it did not look like he was good with it. Obviously, he doesn't think that they're playing up to their caliber. So I'm not going to sit here and stroke off the Ravens for what they did today. You almost blew that game, and you didn't. So I can't really say too much because obviously my game will happen tomorrow night, and I can hopefully have somebody that continues to sound off in the comments. I love Rel too, but he's talking a lot of mess for not having a touchdown from his quarterback.
That's why we like Rel though, because what he does that. He loves you. We love you. We love you.
I get it. It's all out of love, and he's just it's all. I'm not saying anything else. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but I am sitting here saying the Ravens did not show me anything like they did something good today. They won a game, which is good because they haven't won.
No, I get you. There's a lot to be desired on it. Go ahead, Rev. You got final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, but at the very least, hey, Jimmy, be happy that all of the when it comes to Pittsburgh, all of our division games are basically at the end of the year. So hey, get your team right, get everything sorted out. Get Jamar Chase his money because it seems like he gets a little upset and causes some boneheaded penalties.
He's the LL Cool J from the program, or not the program, from Any Given Sunday. So I need my touches. If I don't get my touches, I don't get my money, and I like my money.
Yeah. Hope that he gets his money, get your win because the rest of the landscape of the AFC North is looking a little shaky. Ravens almost at Dallas through the back door, and we don't really need to say much about Cleveland in that QB situation.
They will be on our here in a second. They'll be there.
Don't speak of the back door with Cleveland. Don't speak of the back door.
No, we don't want to go there with it. Hey, Brian, what do we got?
What do we got? The Chiefs just got a touchdown to Smith-Schuster, and then they missed the extra point.
Okay, I got the touchdown up on the screen here. A little crossing route. A little Chiefs favorite there. They did miss the extra point. We always like to hear that. There's still a chance there for the Falcons. Is it a good omen if your owner adds himself to the Ring of Honor? I don't know. That's always something I'm battling with here as a fan today. It's kind of, I don't know about that one. Jimmy, we need to put ourselves, me and you, talking the gridiron.
This is a very big drive for Atlanta. They got to do something here.
They better do something on this drive or they're in trouble because I don't think they're going to score much if that's the case. Last week they surprised the hell out of me though. I wasn't surprising. They surprised me on that one. I wasn't expecting anything from them last week with it. All right, hey, best of the rest. We'll keep it moving here. What the back door? Yeah, the Browns. They do go. They do lose it again. Nico?
No, Diddy.
Yeah. Well, no, sorry, Daren. Control yourself. Focus. All right, here we go. Best of the rest here with it, Nico. I have the Giants or Browns. You can take it wherever you want with it, but I'm just going to say this. Watson was looked upon 2020. This guy, if they're out of a game, he's coming back. He can make it happen. This is his story. And then he's dead. I mean, he literally looks like a dead quarterback. It's ridiculous. He's all, worst contract ever made.
Russell Wilson has an argument.
Trade, maybe. Trade.
Yeah. Well, Russell Wilson also has an argument for that. But yes, all I'll say is this: look, Cleveland made one of the biggest mistakes they could have done. Because imagine if they would have played Baker's money, which would have been far less than what Deshaun Watson. Yes, Baker didn't have a great game today, but he's been fantastic and been a playoff caliber quarterback at least thus far since leaving Cleveland. And they added some other offensive weapons and made life a little bit easier. Right? They're still missing Chubb, who seems to be injured for half the season every single year now. And you're trying to rely on Jerome Ford, who seems like he can't do it. Obviously, Watson is trying to get the ball out to Judy and Cooper, who look two guys who can get open very well, but he's not getting the ball to them. This Cleveland Browns team is a ticking time bomb. It is a ticking time bomb. And I honestly think there's a very good chance Cleveland could say, we're done with this experiment in the offseason. On the flip side, I will say the Giants are going to need a quarterback next year. Malik Neighbors, if he gets one of these top 5 quarterbacks next year, a Beck, a Shador, a Ewers of that sort, man, look out because look, Neighbors is a special talent, and he just made Daniel Jones look like he was worth his contract. That's pretty hard to do. That's pretty hard to do. That's pretty hard to do. So look, if Neighbors can continue up this level of play with Daniel Jones struggling as he has, I don't think the Giants are going to. This is an omen of what the Giants are going to be the rest of the season, winning close games, doing all that. I still think they'll be one of the worst teams in the league, but I just think Cleveland also is just such the biggest headache and have no identity, and what they thought their identity was is just falling apart. So it's a big problem in Cleveland right now, and New York fans have something to look forward to now after seeing what you saw this game.
Then the fantasy owners, if you were out there, this guy did cost you a touchdown out there, the 1 yard line. But he gets a little run there and decides to pull the old fantasy. Yeah, we're not going to get the stats. We're just going to go down the 1 yard line. Jimmy, you see them a lot. Do you agree Watson's toast?
I mean, the fact that the allegations continue coming, like I'd feel differently if we could see another side of this thing. If we can see the other side of light at the end of the tunnel, it seems like it's just going to continue. And if you are worth it on the field, people and NFL franchises will overlook a lot. But when you play the way that he does, he's getting one of the most emotionally abused franchises out there, like even worse. They're going through even worse because now not only are they really bad, everybody gets to make the jokes. Like that's the best thing about knowing Doug is that I can make whatever joke that I want about Deshaun Watson, and it sticks, and it gets worse. For my sake, I hope that the Browns do get a little bit better so that Doug stops taking college football 25 so seriously and I can get a win in edgewise. That's all he does. He gets mad and then he rage plays and then he gets pretty good. He's gotten really, really, really good now because the Browns continue to look the way that they do. The Giants, good job for them today. Thank you, Malik Neighbors.
But why? Why? I don't get it, Jimmy. I'm serious. I don't understand this. You guys help me out with this one. He was the top 3 quarterback. And then, is it just the mental stress of the allegations, or is it what I believe in? The Browns cannot develop a quarterback.
You want my psychology answer?
Sure.
My psychology answer.
Yeah, Rev and I spent a lot of time in the behavioral science building. But when you're a sociopath like that,
keep it to 2 minutes or less.
when you're a sociopath like that, you believe that you can't do anything wrong and nobody knows what you're doing behind closed doors. You think that you can get away with anything. I think that maybe it's not good, but maybe that played a little bit into how he was on the field because some of those situations, like I remember the game where he got kicked in the eye and threw the touchdown pass against the Raiders. Max Crosby literally kicked him in the face as he was falling down. And he still threw a touchdown pass to win. When you're doing that, when you're a sociopath like that, everything is great. His facade is broken. His release is no longer there. You can't get those, whatever they were doing, massages, whether it was as bad as things are saying or not, it's gone. And when you're that dominant of a personality, when you have that much, he's obviously been getting away with it for years, and then everything comes crashing down. You're like, well, shit, if I can't get away with that anymore, I'm probably not that great of a quarterback. I'm probably not going to be able to do anything as well as it's shitty to think about it that way, but think about it as the person who did that. He obviously doesn't think that he did much wrong. It's not like he's come out and done this big apology tour. He hasn't done the things that Michael Vick did after he got out of jail for all the things that we know he did. He hasn't A, owned up to it, so maybe it's a little bit of the guilt factor, and B, maybe that was his motivation. Maybe that was the reason why he was able to do the things that he did on the field. It could be that, because when you're doing something like that and it psychologically makes a connection, your brain is a powerful tool, and if you don't have that release anymore, if you're shown that this is a bad thing that I was doing, maybe that's the reason why he's that bad.
What do you think there? What do you think there, Rev?
All right, let me make my thoughts brief on both the Giants and the Browns here. Starting off with the Browns, because ultimately I think the karma of this situation is just so hilarious. Like, you have a franchise who had a series of just from the Tim Couches to the Brady Quinns to the Derek Andersons, and just a laundry list of quarterbacks that they drafted that never worked out. You finally get a quarterback in Baker Mayfield, leads you to the playoffs, kicks my favorite team's ass in the playoffs.
On the road, by the way.
Ben's last game.
And then you give up on him because you didn't want to wait for him to heal his shoulder. And then normally I don't believe in karma because Deshaun Watson is still playing football. But like the funny thing about the karma situation is Baker Mayfield, you let go because you didn't want to wait for his shoulder to heal. Deshaun Watson last year ends up having a season-ending injury due to the fact that he needed shoulder on his shoulder too. So just like you got a little greedy going after your $230 million guaranteed quarterback, and you didn't want to wait for Baker to heal. So Deshaun gets the same injury. So I think the karma is beautiful in that situation. The other thing I want to briefly bring up is like back to the psyche thing. I think Deshaun Watson for so long is used to being seen by the public as a good guy, as this model class citizen. He was a 5-star guy coming out, headed from high school. He was always a hot shot, chosen, good quarterback. He played for the Dabo Swinney Clemson Christian Club. He's this good guy. And then everything comes out, and Mark Schlereth does bring this up too, just when it comes to like there are certain people who, when there's just turmoil going on in their life or when they get seen as a bad person, they can't, like, it messes your psyche where not only off the field, but on the field is getting to your head because no one used to boo Deshaun Watson. Now everyone boos Deshaun Watson. So that's like a major psychological change from what people thought about you before and how people reacted to you before that is going to get to him too. And then back to the New York Giants, Daniel Jones continues to be like the most like confusing quarterback to evaluate because on one hand, it's not, you can't just blame everyone else around him but him. Still has a turnover problem. Still, he's gotten better with the fumbles, but you know, he'll still disappoint you from time to time. But when you look at the supporting cast, Evan Neal, who really just hasn't really panned on the offensive line, and then up until this point that they got Malik Neighbors, his best receivers have been Darius Slayton and the ghost of Darren Waller. So it's just like at this, it's so hard to evaluate just where Daniel Jones is at. So let's just see how this season turns out.
Brian, final thoughts on this one?
I don't know. It's kind of sad too that girl that he's with, like, you act like there's nothing wrong. You're like kissing him before the game. Like he's really done some real awful stuff. Like, why are you still with this guy? Are you with him because he's really rich and he has all this money? I mean, it really shows like, man, I mean, I don't know. They seem like the worst couple in America, even worse than Taylor Swift and Kelsey.
I always get Brian for TMZ with it. I like it. News and notes part of it here. Let's get to 2 games as we go. I'll get them up on here. The Broncos, they get the win versus the Bucks, which was kind of a surprising one along the way. We got that, Bo Nix. We got that over the win here. Then we have the Colts. They rush for 3 TDs as they beat the struggling Chicago Bears with it. What do you got, Brian Johnson? Which one you want to start with? Then we'll go to Nico on this one.
I thought it was an absolute shock. I mean, the Bucks just didn't come out. They laid an egg, and the Broncos took advantage of it. I mean, after you go to Detroit and have an impressive win, and you lose this game. I mean, really confusing, in my opinion.
What do you make of that, Jimmy?
Well, I think right now it came down to Antoine Winfield and Vita Vea not there, and the Broncos offense executed at their highest level of this season. Not taking anything away. There was still a couple things. Biggest thing that I think you take away, and I'm sure Nico will talk about it, but no turnovers or no interceptions. You had the one fumble that almost turned everything around. But for the most part, this is what we were saying about Sean Payton on Thursday, where this team is not going to be bad they're not going to make the same mistakes in multiple weeks. They're going to have to get better because Sean Payton will either bench your ass or you're going to get better. So I think that today showed they're moving in the right direction. But those 2 losses on defense for Tampa Bay is probably a big reason as to why everything turned out the way that it did.
Nico, what do you got? Your Broncos showed a little life.
Look, there's one whole overlying goal for this season for the Denver Broncos. It's not to win all these games and go for a Super Bowl. Yes, that'd be nice to try to do that. Yes, it'd be nice to try to compete with the Chiefs to win the division. Yes, it'd be nice to fight for a wild card position. The most important goal is to develop young dogs and young talent. Plain and simple. That's the entire goal. When you have $40 million on your cap hit for the next 2 seasons, you have to develop young talent. And that is exactly what this team did today. You look at the young talent of this defense. Baker Mayfield's life was in a living hell. His life was a living hell. You can say all you want about this Buccaneers defense struggling. This Buccaneers offensive line had one of their worst performances they've ever had. Bonito, Browning, we didn't have Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper out there. They were making Zach Allen and company. This defense of the Broncos holding a Buccaneers team to 7 points when they have this high-powered offense with the weapons of Bucky Irving, who's really showed out. Rashad White, who's had a down year, but Evans and Godwin, limiting Evans to only 2 catches for 25 yards. That's the Pat Surtain effect. You're developing young guys. You're developing young talent, and that's what you're supposed to do. I really, really enjoyed seeing the young weapons being used today on offense too. Seeing Mims, seeing Troy Franklin being used in the passing game. Obviously, Humphrey and Reynolds had decent first 2 weeks, but this team is lacking playmakers offensively. They're lacking a playmaker. Plain and simple. Courtland Sutton is a consistent guy who's going to catch the ball, but he will not wow anybody. That's why I'm so high on Warren Travis Hunter, or frankly, of any playmaker in next year's draft, because you get this team of playmakers a lot different. Bo Nix still leads this team in rushing yards. Your quarterback. Javonte Williams has had a horrible year to start. Tyler Beatty had a long, massive 40-yard run today, so I hope to see him a couple more times this year. Jaleel McLaughlin has obviously had that great outside run where he juked a couple defenders and got to the end zone on 4th down. Like, this team is missing playmakers. That's the worst thing. And this team, like I said, Bo Nix's jersey was pretty clean today. This team was missing his right tackle. There was massive kudos to this offensive line and taking that step up. So, like Jimmy said, it nailed on the head. This team won't make the same mistake over and over again, like the past Broncos teams in the past, and that's because of Sean Payton. And like I said, this is a game that you can hang your hat on. Bo Nix being like, this is what we expect now. Like making smart plays, taking care of the football, and like I said, win football games. You can win football games in the National Football League by being smart and doing the right things. And like I said, this defense is going to be carry this team, unfortunately, and it has done a great job thus far. But the offense showed out and did a very good job.
Rev, any final thoughts there?
Well, since the Colts did also get brought up, the Colts-Bears game also got brought up at the beginning of the segment, I will bring up a theme here when it comes to these two rookie quarterbacks and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix being able to find like who their go-to guys are more in week 3 of the season, where Jimmy, I'm sure, is hoping for the opposite effect here in Jaden Daniels tomorrow, but it seems like week 3, things started to click a little bit more for both Nix and Williams. Now, there was more erratic play clearly from Caleb Williams. Those 2 interceptions are still there, but he was able to find rhythm with DJ Moore. He got a touchdown to Cole Kmet. So he's starting to find out who his weapons are. And just like what Nico mentioned before with the Broncos, which was basically smooth sailing all day, he was able to get to Courtland Sutton more than he did the first 2 weeks of the season. And then the young guns were starting to find their place in the offense as well. What's even more surprising is who would have actually thought that Bo Nix would turn into a dual threat quarterback. So
I mean, he was that at Oregon. Like he
more at Auburn. More at Auburn. He ran more at Auburn because they had that spread offense. But Oregon, Oregon's more what you're seeing now. Auburn was more of like a quarterback run, still Cam Newton style. This is
spread offense,
making sure that I will say that bootleg where he stopped, pulled up, and then made the run. That was like, oh, I did not realize that he could do that. I did not know that was in his repertoire. Oh shit.
We got 22-17 right now, Brian. Chiefs Falcons. Is that where we're at in this game?
Yeah, the Falcons made him punt. And like the backup running back almost fumbled it. I guess they said he was down, but man, I was just like, they almost blew it, but they didn't. So
Falcons get the ball here, 4th quarter on the 11-yard line. Well, the Bears, I want to spend more time on them, but I feel like we're going a little long here with it. But they've been bad to start. The offensive line is going to get Caleb Williams absolutely murdered by the time the season's over. He has no chance at all to survive.
But they drafted all these receivers in the first couple of rounds to go with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's another. He's getting murdered. I know that. Afternoon delight. We brought it up a little bit. The Goff ends up getting the 2 TDs to beat the Cardinals with that. Nico, where are you at with the Lions right now? Are you like this is the? Are you still? I don't know. We said the NFC feels wide open. Where you at early with them?
Jimmy knows I'm very high on the Cardinals. I really think Kyler could take that next step, and I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has all of the possibilities to be a top 5 receiver in the game. So I don't think that this was necessarily a close win over a bad team. Look, I think the Lions are still trying to figure out their footing. Weapon wise, and obviously no longer having Reynolds. Reynolds was the number 2 guy there in Detroit outside of Monroe St. Brown. And obviously this week he finally got into the end zone and was more effective. I see a lot of good things. I think their defense is still trying to figure a couple things out on the back end, but I mean, look, I think the Lions are a NFC contender, and they are definitely one of the favorites in my opinion. They play smart football, right? They play smart football, and the one thing that's bitten them in the ass is themselves. So obviously, it's the decisions Dan Campbell makes is the same thing like Sirianni, except Daniel Campbell has been more successful at those dumb decisions. That's the only difference between the two, to be honest with you. So look, I think that the Lions are still a top 2, top 3 team in the NFC. They're going to be tough to play at home. Like I said, I think the Cardinals are a sneaky team that could be very, very good this year and contend in the NFC for a wild card spot. So I don't think that this is a close game. It's not a huge loss. A huge like I think it's a good solid win that we may look at later on in the season. Be like, yeah, that was a good win against a decent football team. So look, I think like I said, I think the Lions are still figuring out offensively what their who their weapons are, who they can trust. Losing Laporta, I think, could make a massive impact. Obviously, he's a guy that Goff just looks to all the time over the middle. Yep. So we'll see what the timetable on his return is. But if he's out for an extended period of time, that could hurt them. If he's back sooner than later, then I think that they'll be just fine. But I think that's going to be a massive impact on their offense, whether Laporta's active or not. Even if he's not 100%, him on the field is still a weapon that defenses have to worry about.
It was like the Niners today. No Kittle. It makes a huge difference if he's not out there as at least a weapon. Jimmy, Cardinals continue to play tough though.
And it was the first weekend of the new COD download or whatever. I know that because I had a few kids come to me on Thursdays like, hey, Mr. Pilato, look, the new COD season comes out today. I was like, oh, I didn't.
Duty for anybody else.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. I'm spending too much time with the 12-year-olds. I'm too hip now. Call of Duty. The new Call of Duty season dropped, and Kyler Murray still threw for 207 yards and a touchdown. It was close. And this team is just a team that talent-wise has to outplay themselves. That's kind of where they're at. They have Trey McBride. They have Marvin Harrison Jr., which, Nico, I did get what I wanted out of him last week on a big game on the week that he left my team. But outside of those 2 guys, those few spots, they really are not anything like talent-wise up to the NFL standard. So they're going to have to win a lot of games where they keep it close, but they are still a good team. They're a solid NFL team that will always be a tough out. They are not the Carolina Panthers, which maybe they look a little bit differently now behind the red rifle.
Look good today. The Red Rocket. Look good today.
He's always beaten the Raiders except for on that wild card playoff game spot. That was like the only time that he never beat the Raiders. But I think Kyler and his Cardinals team is just tough. They're just a middle of the road, like, punch you in the face. If you let them stick around, if you let them beat you, they will beat you. They have no problem doing that. But I don't think that there's a ton of expectations from them, and I think that they're just whatever they do is going to outdo their expectations.
Hey Rev, I'm gonna keep it going to another game here. I want to get your thoughts with the Titans and the Packers. The Packers, Willis, he plays the Packers today, and he ends up getting the win against them. The Packers lose love, and they can't lose at this point. All of a sudden, right with it. What do you make of? I don't know. I'm like, whenever these like weird like injuries happen earlier in the year, and then they get the W, I got to think this is going to be a huge bonus for the Packers come later in the season.
Yeah, so a recurring theme that you're starting to see with some of these younger quarterbacks, especially this year, is just the value of having a good coordinator or having good coordinators around you, because I wouldn't have expected Malik Willis to outdo Will Levis heading into the season, but seeing how things have kind of gone on with Tennessee this year, just the overall risky and reckless play from Levis.
They look bad.
Can you really trust that versus a Matt LaFleur-led offense who, he's ever since Aaron Rodgers left, it seems like he hasn't really, he hasn't skipped too much of a beat, where things look a little rough around with Jordan Love, but things got better. Looked like a potential top 10 QB down the stretch. And now they're just implementing the right game plans, slowly adding things to the point where last week it looked more like a read option offense. They're just slowly pitching, adding more things to make sure he's comfortable, make sure they're not throwing too much at him. So ultimately, Green Bay is holding up very well. I'd be a little bit more worried if I'm an NFC North team, seeing how things look so on schedule with the Packers. Not that I'm worried about the Lions because, well, you're really just hoping that Jamison Williams turns into a reliable wide receiver too and starts to look more like Tyreek Hill than Rashid Shaheed. But ultimately, yeah, the Packers, they're right there in the driver's seat, up there with Minnesota and Detroit ready to duke it out. So, yeah, you got to be really confident as a Packers fan.
Brian Rodgers sparkles there in that first win versus the Pats. Is that more Rodgers or the Pats suck?
I think it's more the Pats offensive line would look god awful on Thursday.
They did not look like they had a chance there with it. Our oh yeah segment of it here. We had the Dolphins. They lose to the Seahawks. They end up getting the win there as well. And then the surprise of the day, my terrible Raiders. They lose to the Red Rifle. I don't care what his name is, whatever it is.
Red Rocket.
I call that. He comes in and they kill us. 34-7. They're up. 33-7. I don't know what it is. And I told my brother on our show this morning, me and him have been around. I go, this is a typical Raiders letdown game. This is the definition of it. And then I know the Panthers are going to get the QB sub boost or whatever that is. You know, like they're going to play better now for the backup type of deal. We could have waited one more week for that Panthers to help us out. But they didn't do that.
Give me my taco pie.
Gosh, I'm so frustrated with this team. You beat the Ravens on the road, and then you come back and you lose to the pathetic. And you don't just lose; you get absolutely murdered. I mean, this is pathetic. I put a lot of it on Pierce. The offense has been awful. The quarterback signings, all of that was awful as well. What a disaster after such a good win, and then you come back and you lay the definition of an egg. Pathetic. I am frustrated with the loss I did. Should be 2-1. It should be 2-1. I don't get it. Brian, I'm pissed. I don't understand. I'm pissed.
I mean, any momentum you had was completely deflated after that game.
Slapped out of your face. Put a little chalk on me too and slap it out of me. I don't know what it was totally out of it.
It seems like each and every passing second, Devontae Adams is on that sideline looking even more and more dejected.
I would too. It's pathetic effort there, Pilato. I'm frustrated. I don't get it.
Is Devontae Adams going to be a future Jet? Is the question.
Probably so.
Wishing things in existence here.
I don't understand how anybody in the Raiders organization saw the wide receiver show and said, "Yeah, let's give Devontae Adams Gardner Minshew." I think he'll be totally fine with that. He about asked for a trade with Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo last year. Let's give him Minshew. He'll enjoy that. He'll have so much fun with that. But hey, let's let Josh Jacobs go. And then also let's go draft a tight end in round 1 when we have a lot of glaringly obviously other issues. Look, Brad Powers is a stud. Don't get me wrong. He's doing a lot of good things. He's doing a lot of good things for my fantasy team. So I can't blame him.
He's not the problem necessarily.
But he is not the problem. It's the person getting him the ball. And look, I enjoyed it. I don't know what the hell happened between a change of 7 days and what's going on. But I mean, look, it's a ticking time bomb for Devontae Adams. It really is, because if you saw Pierce's quotes after the game, he was like, "We have a lot of guys just laying down and not giving full effort." And I know 100% one of those was Devontae Adams on a couple of those catches that hit him in the hands and just dropped it and just didn't want to get hit. So it could be a long season for Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. Who's the backup? I don't even know. It's
Aiden
O'Connell.
Yeah.
Look at the quarterbacks that were on the free agent market this past year. Darnold is at
least we don't get Prescott next year.
Playing off. Malik Willis was obviously.
Why didn't the Raiders take a look at Justin Fields? I don't understand.
Fields, Willis, Sam Darnold, all these quarterbacks that they decided to go with Minshew, who's been a backup for 2 years. And, you know what? Go Devontae. Enjoy Minshew and have a good time.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so since we're on the topic of ticking time bombs, I think another ticking time bomb that, yeah, it's might be, some might say it's too soon, but I am slowly gradually starting to think that time might be coming up for Bryce Young as a legitimate NFL quarterback
Oh.
because at first I wanted to downplay the lack of size as like, oh, he could play around it, this and that. I said the same thing about Kenny Pickett's hand size, but ultimately, like, sometimes size, like, it does
Size
matter.
matters.
They measure these people.
Tiny
for-
hands.
like they measure these teams for a reason. Kenny Pickett couldn't comfortably drive the ball 20 yards downfield because he had 8.5-inch hands. Bryce Young is literally throwing jump passes just to get the ball over defensive linemen. He's throwing jump passes just to get the ball out to receivers in the flats. And it's like, hell, even if you look at the one game Andy Dalton played last year against Seattle, that was one of Carolina's 2 best passing performances all season. So at this point, it's just leading us to believe like maybe Bryce Young just isn't good. Maybe he just sucks, unfortunately. I like his attitude. He seemed like a great person. He said all the right things in the locker room, but maybe he just sucks.
The argument that Nick Saban made on, and I saw him talk about this on the McAfee show, was that when Bryce Young had all this talent at Bama, he just got the guys the ball, right? He got the guys the right positions and just did not make mistakes. And while the argument, well, he doesn't have those weapons at Carolina, the counter argument is look what Andy Dalton did with those weapons, right? Chuba Hubbard obviously had a career day. Deontay Johnson, who would nowhere to be found week 1 and 2, it all of a sudden looks like the receiver of old. They apparently do have these weapons. He just wasn't finding them in the right spot. So maybe it was the offensive scheme. It wasn't putting him in the right spot or whatever it may be. I don't know how many games Carolina is going to win. I still think it's a death wish to draft a quarterback in 2 out of 3 straight years. I think that's just going to set your franchise back another 10 years. So I think you have to ride it out. And if Dalton's your backup, then Dalton's your backup. But this team is still so far inferior in talent everywhere else that they cannot afford to jump ship right away. And even if they're one of the worst teams in the league, go get Shador, go get Ewers, go get Beck, whatever. I don't think they walk in and do much better next year is all I'm going to say. So getting a better talented player, like an offensive lineman, for instance, or in a defensive edge player in the draft could massively help this team and just let this team get better and then give him more of the reins and just figure things out. Because like I said, it's giving up on a guy too early. That's what they've done in the past. That's what they did with Baker. That's what they did with a couple of their guys. Like it's just a recipe for disaster, especially with a team that, no offense, they're not very talented. Even though they beat the Raiders today, they're still not very talented. So and especially if Thielen's out for a while, like they need help elsewhere. So like I said, I don't know if it's done this year. Maybe it's done after the year after that. But it's like I said, Bryce Young's going to have to figure out. Maybe this is the best thing that's ever happened.
I saw the funniest trade rumor. It would be the dumbest trade for the Rams of all time, where it was like a 3-team deal. Stafford would go to Miami. Somehow the Rams would get Bryce Young, and the Panthers would get picks. I was like, why the hell would the Rams even do that?
That's the whole thing. It makes no sense why they would do that. And like I said, like nobody's giving up any picks anyhow for Bryce Young. It's not happening anymore at this point. The Panthers have lost all respect around the NFL, but then they beat the Raiders, and it's like, well, the Raiders are back to reality. That's just how it goes. Do I cross the Raiders off the list? Am I putting them on the list? What teams can we cross off the list of making the playoffs?
The Rams,
yeah, the Rams, and the Rams won today, Jimmy. We got a little throwback from the Rams today. You put them on there last week, Jimmy.
I'm still comfortable with having them there.
Cross out the Titans. You could maybe
I'm good with
the Rams. The Raiders are feisty, but I'd cross them out.
You can confidently put the Titans on there.
I can put the Titans on there. I could probably put the Bears on there too.
I'm putting the Titans on right now.
I think the Rams get Puka and Cooper Cup back and get.
No matter what happens in Washington tomorrow, I'll put them on the list.
Commanders maybe tomorrow they get a big lot. How about the Bengals? We won't do that to you, Jimmy. We'll wait a Monday.
You guys have been doing it all episode. I thought I was going to come in and have the ammunition. All you losers keep ganging up on me.
Can we put your Colts on yet, Jimmy? Can we put your
Oh,
Colts?
we could have put the Colts on the day that I got tweeted. Are you going to apologize when Anthony Richardson still went 9 for 19 and lost? That's the day we could have put the Colts on the list.
That's what we could add. Hey, what do you guys think of Week 4's best matches? We got to get to the end of the fourth quarter. Johnson, we got 22-17, 3:24 left. Chiefs making a final drive.
The Falcons went for 4th and 5 and didn't convert it, so it looks like the Chiefs might take control here.
Falcons still have 3 timeouts, so we'll see if the Falcons get a stop here with you. Anybody joining here, Variety Sports Network, tune in. All right, so best Week 4 matchups. Here's you got the Thursday night game, Dallas at New York. I don't know about that one. We got that one as well with it. Minnesota at Green Bay, Pittsburgh at Indianapolis, kind of some intriguing ones. Denver at the Jets, Philadelphia and Tampa, not bad. Cincinnati at those feisty Panthers. You have that because along the way as well. Cleveland
Red Rifle returns
with Red Rifle. You got the Chiefs versus the Chargers, and then a decent Sunday night game. You got Buffalo at Baltimore, and then again two Monday night games. Subpar. Tennessee at Miami, and I guess based on record, not subpar, but just name Seattle at Detroit is the other game there. So that's your schedule looking ahead to Week 4. Any of those games jump out to you, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to go New England, San Francisco.
How could we forget? How could we forget about that? If you lose to the Patriots, you come out here next week. I'm going to see a depressed Brian Johnson on here. This is going to be a depressed Brian.
I think I'm actually going to put the printer in the box and throw it.
There you go. I want to see it out the window at the time too from the apartment.
Losing to the Patriots is a frustrating experience. I know from experience.
Jimmy,
I think the matchup that most intrigues me is Buffalo versus Ravens. That's going to be a good matchup.
I agree. I think that's a good one there as well.
The game that really stands out to me, like outside of that one, because I was going to say that, but I will say the Packers and Vikings that's the one that's really going to intrigue me there. Just when it comes to underdog quarterbacks performing well, the NFC North, which is starting to look like the AFC North this year. Like it is going to be jam packed. Maybe maybe Chicago's a little bit on the out of things. You say the same thing about Cleveland right now, kind of looking like on the out of things. But, yeah, that Packers-Viking game is going to be really pivotal, and it's in not a very friendly environment in Lambeau Field.
And if Jordan Love is back, I mean, that's going to make it even better.
Even better. Yeah.
What do you got for it, Jimmy?
If tomorrow doesn't go well, that Panthers game is going to be an absolute slaughter, and I hope that the Red Rifle is there for that. We're going to Carolina. Last time we went to Carolina, that was very good. So I'm not going to say that one off the bat. I think the Eagles-Bucks could be interesting because after today, there's question marks about the Bucks. There's obviously question marks about the Eagles with how they finished last season and not looking like they like each other on the sideline. So I think that game will kind of designate – that's a playoff rematch from last year, but that will designate who I think I put my faith in moving forward. Are the Eagles really mid like I think right now, or is Baker and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers been inflated by easy games week 1 and 2?
Yeah, I wonder what's the thing with the locker room chemistry issues with the Eagles? Like, I wonder, like, is it like a Jalen Hurts thing? Like,
enough rock paper scissors.
They're like, do they kind of look at him like how maybe people look at Russell Wilson as kind of being like this disingenuous guy who always seems to have like the perfect cliche thing to say in a locker room quote? Like, is there like something there where he just kind of feels like the too overly professional, like always giving out the perfect PR responses all the time? Like, is it because of Hurts? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good call with that. I wanted to get this up here, but Jimmy just texted me this as well. Or Chris Collinsworth, does he have a love affair with Mahomes? Apparently, there's a lot of urinals available. He will choose the one next to him that way.
Here's the guy. When he rocks a piss, he can stand 5 feet away from the urinal.
I'm pretty sure he said
he better not do what he did with T.O.
Yeah.
At least 5 different times this podcast already.
He's already loved him on this one, Nico. Nico, you got your Broncos next week. They moved to 500. Is that what we back to?
I'm not gonna sit here and hype up the Hackett Bowl. I don't even frankly want to watch
the Hackett Bowl. I love it.
It is like I said. We lose better. If we win, the Jets are still frauds. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win situation for me. So look, I'm not going to hype it up. I really like the Vikings-Packers matchup. I think like I said, if Jordan Love plays that game, we could be looking at a game that means a lot at the end of the season. That could have a lot of implications in terms of who wins the division and goes forward with that. So I think that game's going to be massive. I think Jimmy, I really like this Eagles-Bucks matchup. Eagles are losing weapons left and right, and if they can rely heavily on Saquon, it's going to be huge for them. But no A.J. Brown, obviously Devontae Smith. We'll see what his injury is as well. And the Bucks obviously need to respond, and especially at home, a playoff rematch. So we'll see what those two teams looks like. I don't need to beat, like I said, I don't need to keep going on and on about. Obviously, the Sunday night matchup of the Bills and Ravens is going to be
great game. Football. That's going to be a good one.
It's going to be must watch, and both teams are high-powered offenses and defenses that are coming into their own. So I'm really excited to see what that game has in store because I think early season that probably is one of the best early season matchups.
About time we got a good game on prime time. We do have Chiefs Falcons 22-17 right now. Falcons do have the ball, 2-minute warning. They're driving. Maybe they can pull out another miracle. Right, you got Brian.
I feel cheap shot coming on because I see the video right now.
Well, this is gonna be for my game ball with it. I just wanted to get this play up, but we'll get that later with it. What do you guys think for who you got Monday night? Jaguars, Bills, Commanders, or Commanders, Bengals. Jimmy, give me your two picks here.
One of these two games is going to be way too close for comfort for a team that should win. I'm going to get trolled in the chat no matter what I say. I think that the Bengals, with what they showed against the Chiefs last week and the fact that it was a lot of dumb mistakes that can be corrected, this should be a very not necessarily easy win. I do not think that it's going to be an easy win, but what I've seen from Washington's defense against decent teams, they can move the ball, they can score. So I think that the Bengals will be able to score. The defense will make plays when they need to because Jaden Daniels is nowhere near the level of quarterback as Patrick Mahomes, and they got 3 turnovers out of him last week. I think that the Bengals win this game. For the Bills game, I'm expecting the Bills to win. This seems like a wild weekend where this could be a wild upset, or at least maybe the Jaguars cover. I don't know about that 5.5 number. I don't know about the 7.5 number for the other game. I think these are two wild games.
Nico, I have massive concerns about the Jaguars. So they're already going up against in Buffalo. What do you think of that game? And then also
the Jags have a lot of problems right now.
Yeah.
Look at their division, right? Obviously, Indianapolis has struggled. Tennessee is a terrible football club. Houston obviously loses a shocker this week as well against getting blown out by the Vikings. It's open. It's an open division. Like you put a couple good. Like this was a playoff team until the collapse at the end of the year. Let's not forget about that. This team was division leader going into week 18 or week whatever it was, and then lost it, and then ended up losing division. Like this team is still has the possibilities. Trevor Lawrence needs to figure it out. They have to figure it out. I don't think they do it this week because I think the Bills are still a better football team and frankly, that Jaguars defense is not very good, so I'm easily taking the Bills here. But the Jags do need to figure it out quickly because the division is giving them an opportunity. The division is giving them an opportunity to capitalize on it, as bad of a start as it's been. So the other game, I trolled Jimmy in our pick'em, so I picked the Commanders because early season Bengals just do it. I don't think that the Commanders are going to win this game. I am going to bet the Commanders cover. I do think that
a lot. 7.5.
7.5 is a ton of points. It's a ton of points, and it's.
The Bengals haven't looked good. The Bengals haven't looked good.
Outside of last week, and Anarumo
formidable last week, but yeah,
Anarumo obviously just has Mahomes' playbook down apparently, and what Andy Reid does. So I do think they cover. I think the Bengals win though. At home, I think that plays into a factor. Jane Daniels on the road, first primetime game. I think all that will factor into it too. But I do think that they'll cover.
Rev, who do you like?
All right, so I'm going to have some winless cat teams picking up some W's in both of these games here. Obviously, the Jaguars was a bit of a surprise because when it comes to Buffalo, Josh Allen so far might be the most impressive quarterback so far in the league. You know, you get rid of his best receiver and things that just without a hitch just kept going. Yeah, you can contribute some of that. Yeah, you can contribute some of that to James Cook, you know, kind of having a bit of a breakout year 3. You know, him kind of being the passing and rushing, or the receiving and the rushing threat that he is. You know, the receiving core for the most part hasn't skipped too much of a beat. And it seems like things are just feel a little bit more healthy without kind of having that, wide receiver one guy who has a tendency to whine when the ball doesn't go his way. So the pressure's gone off his shoulder when it comes to not having to focus so much on Stephon. But I feel like the right Trevor Lawrence showing up could potentially put pressure on the team and go blow for blow, pass for pass with Josh Allen. And you look at the pieces there, ETN, I still think is a good, also bit of a dual threat in both aspects of the game. You got Christian Kirk there, Brian Thomas Jr., who out of the list of all the rookie receivers is having one of the more impressive seasons so far, maybe outside of Harrison Jr. and Neighbors. So I think they have the right pieces. They spent time, they invested pieces into this defense to the point where I think they have players on every area or on each aspect, D-line, secondary, defensive back. Tyson Campbell coming back from injury, a guy who they spent a lot of money on this free agency. So they have the pieces to potentially make it a game, and I think they'll be able to pull it off if Trevor Lawrence the right person shows up. And then, I think the Bengals just get it right. There's just the talent disparity between these two teams is too much that I think Cincinnati comes up with it, even though they may not have won that talent disparity matchup in week one, but they were shaking off rust.
No, I think it's fair with those things as well. Brian, your final thoughts here. Who do you got?
I got Bengals and Bills.
Bengals and Bills. Seems like the home team's favorite. They should win this. The Jaguars, though, I do think there could be a little thing with it. All right, so we're down here to the 56 seconds left. 4th and 1. We have the Falcons out right now on Casey's 13. Johnson, it looks like they call a timeout here. Is that what happened? The Falcons? Or are they about to go for it?
Yeah, it looks like the offense is staying on the field, so it's 4th and inches.
4th and inches. Logan, what's that breaking news? Otani goes 55. We had that with it. Cowboys, they lost. I know you're the Cowboys guy. We talked about it with it. All right, final thing here with it. Winners and losers of it. I could go a lot of different ways. I'm going to go with some random ones. I got Malik Willis beating the Titans after he was picked by him. Just got a low with it. And then Brian, the loser of the week. If I could say Derek Carr, I'm going to say it. I'm going to give you the reason for it. Mr. Carr did not deliver after the Michael Jackson dance last week. He did not get the job done. Those are my winners and losers of the week here as the Chiefs got the ball back. The game looks over there, by the way, on Sunday night. Brian, who do you got for winners and losers?
My loser of the week is the 49ers defense. They, in my opinion, they played like dog shit and couldn't hold court, and the offense did it, but the defense didn't show up. And my winner of the week is Malik Willis because he's held court while Jordan Love is out, and the Green Bay Packers are in a great position right now.
That's fair enough. I would say that's a good one. The Cowboys, could they go 14-0? Jimmy Logan wants to know. Who do you got for winners and losers, Jimmy?
My winner of the week will be people that had like Malik Neighbors. Rome Odunze had a big day in fantasy. So those are a couple teams. My loser of the week is the Atlanta Falcons because I just watched the play that they ran on 4th and inches, and you paid all of this money and you got Kirk Cousins to come in. You drafted another quarterback in Penix, and it's 4th and inches. You don't run you run an outside stretch play that gets blown up 3 yards in the backfield. I know that you're a defensive head coach, Raheem Morris, but you got to you hear that call come over the headset and you go, what the no, dive or quarterback sneak, get me the first down, continue this, or put the ball in your quarterback's hands. Don't hand it off 5 yards deep in the backfield.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one, right? That's a good call there. Nico, what do you got?
What the fuck?
Is Raheem Morris just a good coordinator? Because this is his second chance. So
I want to give him a little bit more time with that. I do feel you though, Brian. I think there's some things with it. Nico, what do you got? Winners and losers?
I was thoroughly impressed with this team's performance, and they beat a very good football team. I'm going to go to the Minnesota Vikings, like in Sam Darnold. If you're Sammy D, man, you got shipped off 3 different spots, right? You were the backup in the last couple of years. You go to Minnesota where you're the gatekeeper. You're the guy that's they're going to draft a rookie. He'll take over the job at some point. You come in and you just ball your ass off, 3 straight wins in a row, one of the only undefeated teams left. And Sammy D comes in and just balls out. And like I said, those weapons are looking good. Aaron Jones looked very good. Obviously, Jay Jettas and Addison and company look very good too. They're going to get Hawkinson back too eventually as well. Minnesota could be sneaky. And Darnold is gaining a lot of confidence. That's something that has never happened in his career, never. So good for Sammy D there. I'll just rub it in further. The Raiders losing to the worst team in the league are my loser. It's way too easy. I lost. I threw them in my parlay. I started Gardner Minshew in my 2 quarterback league because I thought that they were going to absolutely cook them, and instead they decided, let's not play football this week. Let's make it an absolutely embarrassing show to a team that lost by 40 last week. By the way, to a Saints team that could barely score double digits this week. So give me the Raiders as my loser and the Vikings.
Thank you for saying it for me. They well deserved it. Antonio Pierce did say as the game went on, I think I don't know about that, but he said I think there was definitely some individuals that made some business decisions, and we'll make some. And he said we'll make some business decisions as well going forward. So that was the head coach saying that there. What do you think, Rev? You're joining us this week, what do you got for winners and losers here?
All right, so my winners and losers list are going to involve some quarterbacks who had some drastic stock moves lately. Winner is going to be Malik Willis, who just week after week, he's earning more money for himself.
Yes,
right?
He's
in year 3 of his contract. Not that everyone's going to jump the gun and make any drastic contract moves on him next season, but he's earning money. He shows that he's a competent backup. He was there for 2 years in Tennessee, and it just didn't seem like he was in an environment that was willing to develop him. He kind of went to a team in which they drafted him in the 3rd round because, they picked a fire on him because no one expected a lot of those quarterbacks that year to fall as far as they did. But Malik Willis just fell into their lap. He was like, maybe we'll just pick him up. We don't really have a plan for him. But then he goes to Green Bay to a coach in which actually invests a game plan specifically for him, and he showed that he could play quarterback in this league. Like, he's not just a bum that's going to be on the street in 2 years. He could play. He's going to be somewhere, and maybe if a team's really desperate, he'll get a starting spot next year. I doubt it, but
Raiders.
Hey, he's earning some money this
summer. Planned? Did you guys do that on off camera? That was well done. That was nice. Sorry, Raiders.
You might think about that upside. I mean, I've always kind of been a fan of just Gardner Minshew's moxie, but clearly there's a ceiling. So
moxie can only take you so far.
Maybe you could put him on that wish list in case you guys accidentally end up winning 7 games this year.
I think Devontae Adams will retire.
yeah, he probably will. Game over.
Devontae Adams walked into the locker room and he saw Gardner Minshew trying to break his hand again with a hammer. He's like, "What did I sign up for?"
What did I have with it? Red, you got a winner there?
Well, Willis is my winner. As for my loser, as for my loser, the quarterback who's just keeps taking those dives. We already, kind of dove into his psyche, and we got to put that on Deshaun Watson. He's just a shell of his former self. You could tell now that the narrative has changed on him. It's affected the way that he's played. Anytime there's any bit of pressure on him, it just affects to the point where he can't throw anything with consistent accuracy. And he was able to find Amari Cooper today. Amari Cooper always is kind of settled in as one of the more underrated receivers in the league. He got his, but now outside of Cooper, there was just a lack of overall just consistency to go to anything. And it starts with number 4, the worst contract right now in sports.
Ugh. And that trade just so bad. It was so bad. Nico, thanks for taking some time to join us. I know I might be joining you guys next Thursday, possibly for number 200. I think it was. I can talk about my thoughts about your Denver Nuggets headed into the regular season a little bit. Some of my concerns. We'll get into that maybe with you next Thursday. But I appreciate you jumping on.
I'm chomping at the bits.
I'm looking forward to that part of it. But hey, I look forward to. I'm thankful that you could come on tonight. Thanks for taking some time out to talk a little Broncos, a little NFL. Love your thoughts on it.
Appreciate you guys having me. It was a lot of fun, like usual.
Yeah, man. It's been a while, man. Thanks for bringing me back.
Rev, anytime you don't work on a Sunday, you send me that tweet or send me a DM and we'll get you on, all right? I love your thoughts on it. Love your thoughts on it. Same with you, Nico. Jimmy Pilato, full house tonight, right? We haven't had Brian, the main man, Johnson, and I stressed out after these pathetic losses. And we're still frustrated as hell, but it happens. Good luck tomorrow night, Jimmy. Come on. Good luck.
I've saved the white jersey until this point because of what it represents. So if it works out, I'll continue to have my white jersey be my fallback. If it does not work out, then I have no idea. I might have to brush off the one that I have signed. I have a Boomer Esiason signed one that I have yet. I'm not wearing it because it's signed. But if they lose when I'm wearing the white Burrow tomorrow, I might have to pull out the old Boomer Esiason and just knock this mojo off. Go Bengals. Hoo-day, baby.
Brian, if he's getting desperate, as we're bringing out Boomer. Oh, whoa, look at that little starting lineup Boomer there. Or is that Joe? That's Joe. We don't have Boomer there. That's
no, this one is Boomer. 1988 NFL MVP.
Yeah, get yourself a new Burrow bobblehead for each time he dyes his hair.
Rev, you haven't been on yet. If they win the Super Bowl, I'm going bleached.
He's bleaching his hair, Rev, if he joins it. That was the promise we made with it. Brian, fun as always. Thanks for the updates, man. That's good. Guys, Talking the Gridiron, week 3. We'll be back with you. Is it already a quarter through the season? I guess not with week 17, but a little short, but we'll make it happen with it. Week 4, we'll get to you next week, Talking the Gridiron. Nico with us far into the bench. We got Rev, Jimmy Pilato as always, Brian Main Man Johnson. We'll see you guys next week. Variety Sports Network. Peace.